Hey everybody, thanks for watching again. Today I want to go over numbers matching, which is something you hear a lot in the classic car world. What does numbers matching mean? How do you find out if a vehicle is numbers matching? What's the difference between numbers matching in a Ford, a Chevy, a Mopar, things like that, and where some of the common numbers are. So the first thing to understand there is numbers matching means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. Numbers matching a lot of times is going to mean simply that the engine block that the vehicle left the factory with is still in the engine. For some people, it could mean the engine and transmission. Others, it can be engine, transmission, rear end. Sometimes numbers matching can go as far as the number on the intake, the carburetor, the exhaust manifolds, the distributor, the alternator. Wheels are sometimes stamped with dates and numbers in them. Body panels, body panels that will have partial VIN stampings in them or date stamps in them. So we'll go over some of that. Again, like a lot of these videos, it can't be an all-inclusive list of where every number is or how every number decodes, or this would be a year-long video. So I'm going to get out in the showroom here where we've got some cars and kind of show you guys where a lot of these common numbers are that you're going to be looking for. All right.
Okay, so we're going to start off looking at a small block Chevy. So this is just a 350 Chevy. So where you're going to look on a lot of these older Chevy engines is there's a pad right there. You can see that square part sticking out. That will have numbers stamped into it. It's right in front of the passenger head. This one is a good example of one that does not have numbers stamped into it because the block has been decked, which means they took some material off of the head mating surface, which clears that pad off. And that's something you'll see. So you might go to look for something to see if it's numbers matching and find a block that has been decked, and there won't be any numbers there for you to confirm that. So we will move on to another car. All right, here we've got another small block Chevy, and you can see on this pad right there you've got a date code and a suffix code. Those three letters on the end, the CKS, is a suffix code that will break down exactly what this engine is. And then on the other side, it's going to be a little harder to see, but then on the other side here, I've got a partial VIN stamping. You can just barely make it out there with the camera. With just looking at it, you can actually see the numbers and everything. That's the partial VIN stamp. Those are the numbers that will match the last 7-8 digits of the VIN. The next thing you can look for is the casting number, which you can see right there. That is cast into the engine, and that is on the back of the engine behind the driver's side head. So I'll kind of take this out slowly so you can see where I'm looking here. There's your valve cover. So where my light's going, right back down there. And you will see that casting number. That will also decode to let you know what engine you have. That number does not get as specific when you decode it as a suffix code will get. All right, we're going to stick with GM, but we're going to move over to Oldsmobile here. So here is a small block Oldsmobile, and you can see that casting number is right here on the front, right behind the water pump. So that will decode to a year range. It might say, like this engine says it's a 1968 to a 1970. It'll tell you the displacement. It's a 350, and it may give you horsepower ratings and things like that. For the partial VIN, to see if it's numbers matching on an Oldsmobile, we're going to come over here to this side, and it's going to be impossible to see with the camera, but you can see about the only thing lit up down there is a small machined surface, and they stamped a partial VIN into that pad. So again, I'm not going to be able to get it where you can actually read it, but it's underneath the bottom alternator bracket and underneath the head. There's a little pad there. I'll try to upload a picture as well that shows that a little clearer for an Oldsmobile.
So now that we've looked at the GM products a little bit, I want to go over the old Fords. Most of the older Fords did not have partial VIN stampings in the engine. So to say a 66 Mustang is a numbers matching car is just really not correct. They didn't stamp numbers in there to identify that engine came from that specific vehicle. So what they do on those is date code correct, which means that your engine was built in a time frame that makes sense for it to be original to your car. And what they typically look at with that, and this is on across the board, Ford, Chevy, Mopar, AMX, doesn't matter. If they don't have a partial VIN anywhere on them, then they look at the engine should have been built up to 3 months before the car was built. So if your car was built in August of 1966, your engine should have a date stamp on it of May, June, or July of 1966. If it has a date stamp that's older than that, there's a chance it's original to the car, but most people would consider it to be not original to the car. If the engine was built after the car, then it's not correct. They don't build cars and then wait and build an engine to put in the car. The engines are always dated before the cars. So that in that case, if you had an engine that, let's say, was a year older than the date of the car or a year newer than the date of the car, not date code correct, as they would call it, then you would kind of fall into the category of era correct or period correct, which means it is an engine from that time frame. It's close enough to the production date of the car, and it's a correct engine for the car. So a date coded August of 65 289 in a August of 66 built Mustang is correct. It'd be an era correct engine. It's just not the original engine that came with the car. So I'll show you guys in some pictures here where you can locate the date codes on some of the old Fords, because that's nearly impossible to get a camera to actually show you guys live. So. All right, so on an old Mopar, you're going to have casting number on the left side of the engine and a partial VIN stamp on the right side of the engine. Again, these numbers are very hard to get to while an engine is in the car, so I will show a photo of where those numbers are as well. And then to decode any of these, what I do, the easiest thing to do is just go to Google, type in what you're looking for. So Chevrolet small block casting codes, or Chevrolet small block suffix codes, or you can get very specific, 1970 Dodge Challenger, whatever, 440 engine numbers, anything like that. And you'll bring up forums and different websites that have all of the numbers listed, and they're in numerical order, or if they're suffix codes with letters, they'll be in alphabetical order, and you can go through, find what matches your engine, and it will give you some bit of information. Sometimes it's very vague. I've seen numbers that say 3970010, for instance, on a Chevrolet small block. That number was used from 1969 up into the 80s. So that casting number doesn't give me a whole lot of information, except that it is a Chevrolet 350. I don't know the year. I don't know what it was used in. So as I was saying before the phone rang, a lot of these numbers will decode to very vague things. It might be a 10-year range. It might be used in a bunch of different vehicles. They might tell you they were used in Camaros and Chevelles and Impalas and trucks and everything. So you really have no idea what you've got until you move to that front and you use the suffix code in coordination with the casting code to really narrow down more of what you have there. And then if you have the partial VIN stamping, that will also typically have one number on that decodes a year, decodes to a year. So you can really nail down, okay, this engine is a 1971. It was used in a car based on the partial VIN stamping and the suffix code. It might tell you whether it's a 2-bolt main or a 4-bolt main, and it may even decode to an actual horsepower. That's a 350, 290 horse from this year make and model, essentially. So, but again, the only way to know for sure if an engine is 100% original to that vehicle is if it has a partial VIN stamp that matches the car. And even then, you do get guys that can restamp engines, but that's a conversation for a whole nother day. Thanks for watching.